Welcome to the Shared Practices podcast. We are doing another episode on case acceptance, and I'm really excited for this guest that you brought on the show. So I'll let you introduce our guest today and how you got him on the show.
So I am interviewing today on the show Charles Biami from Driven Dental Implant Marketing. And so Charles started a company that targets implant patients, so high value, higher end procedures, patients with larger treatment plans, and who are specifically looking for tooth replacement. And so I signed up with him because we brought a periodontist in-house in our office. And so we felt the need to really make sure that he's busy. And so we signed up with Charles's company so that we can attract those implant patients into our practice in addition to the ones that we already have. So that's how I got to know Charles. And in the process of working with them, I really found that their model and their process is super sound and solid. And it's a great example of how case acceptance is so much more than a conversation with a patient.
That's awesome. I love that you both have found him and worked with him on your own, and now you're having him on the show because it's not just like some random person that we're reaching out. This is someone you're paying that's like currently running your advertising for these types of patients. And I'm super stoked because he has a lot of really specific things. I had to actually slow down this episode. Usually I listen to 1.5 to 2x. A lot of guests I can get away with like listening to 2x speed on my app, and I had to slow this down because there was so much good stuff, and I was like, I'm missing this. This is too much to listen to at 2x. So just warning you guys, set your podcast player back to 1.5 because this is going to be a ton of phenomenal information. And I love it because it takes this concept of case acceptance and applies it to a really specific set of patients, a specific set of procedures, a specific way of marketing, which is where I find we get the most value in our podcast is when we get really specific with how we implement something. So this is a great interview. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem. Let's go ahead and enjoy. This is Charles Biami.
Awesome.
I have with me here today from Driven Dental Marketing, Charles Biami, and I'm very excited for today's episode. One of the big things that I want us to talk about here in Season 4 is about how case acceptance is multifactorial, and I think that Charles is really going to help us see that as it relates to dental implants, and I'm really, really excited for the episode today. So how's it going today, Charles?
Very good, very good. I'm happy to be here.
So Charles, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then your company, Driven Dental Marketing.
Sure. So I am the founder and chief marketing manager of Driven Dental Implant Marketing. And what we do is we're a digital marketing agency that focuses exclusively on helping dental practices attract and convert high value dental implant cases. And we actually do that two different ways. So the first way is we've got a done for you service, which is we actually run the marketing campaigns that create the opportunity for your practice. We drive patients who are actively searching for dental implant treatment to the practice via digital marketing campaigns and generate leads for the practice. And we do that primarily through AdWords is our primary marketing channel, Google Ads, a little bit of Facebook and other channels as well to support that. And so we drive those opportunities to the practice. And then what we also do, the second way that we help our practices, we actually coach them on how to turn those leads into patients who say yes to treatment. And so we've got a whole program there where we share the best practices of dentists all over the country who are doing a lot of implant treatment, everything from how to do well on the phone to structuring that first appointment to financial options in the practice and even a follow-up with the patients. So we help them install a system essentially that is specifically designed to convert patients who are looking for high value implant treatment.
And full disclosure to everyone out there, so I've actually hired Charles's company. We have an in-house periodontist in our practice, and so, I hired Driven Dental Implant Marketing to help us get those types of, higher end procedures and patients to keep him especially busy. And, one of the reasons why I went with them was it's a process more than just an ad campaign. They really help you from, what we call lead generation. And I'd like you to, in a bit, kind of talk more about what the lead is for people out there. I think it's kind of a newer concept in dental marketing. And then, understanding the importance of every step of the process. So Charles, let's start with the lead. And I want you to kind of go and describe what the lead is and how it, where it plays in.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess what we can do is talk about who dental patients are not the same, right? Let's just start there. And so implant patients in particular are different. And what I mean by that is that there's different segments of patients, and they're all looking for something different. There's, let's say you've got your emergency patients, you've got your Invisalign patients, you've got, the patient just looking for regular, general dental care. And then you've got patients looking for, this teeth replacement treatment. Every single one of these patients has a completely different motivation. They've got a completely different problem that they're looking to solve, different budgets, different timelines, different decision criteria about who is the right dentist to help them with the problem that they're trying to solve. And so when we're looking at this from a marketing perspective, the fact is we can't talk to all these patients the same. These are all completely different conversations. And so if you are just marketing in general for new patients, right away, that's going to kind of put you at a disadvantage, because it's going to be difficult to talk to each one of these individual patients with the same message. They're not going to respond. So what Driven Dental Implant Marketing does is we focus specifically on just really truly understanding who that implant patient is. And here's what we found. These patients, they are trying to solve a very complex problem. They're going through a complex purchase decision, actually. Dental implant treatment is certainly an investment, and patients know that. I mean, we're looking at thousands, in some cases, tens of thousands of dollars potentially in dental treatment. So there's a lot of financial risk there. And then there's also physical risk. This is a major surgery. It's a complex process. Patients understand that. And there might be some emotional risk as well. There might be some anxiety around that. A lot of these patients actually they haven't been to a dentist in a long time. That's why their mouths are in such poor condition. They might be suffering from neglect or disease or whatever it is, and they need a ton of work. And so we can't expect them really to have a high dental IQ. There's a lot of things that they're going through where we've got to really start from square one with these patients and just meet them where they are and guide them through the entire process. And for these patients in particular, that means it takes a little bit more time to get them to a point where they're ready to move forward in the process, ready to book their first consultation, ready to come in and ready to say yes to treatment. So you have to design a marketing process or communication that's going to speak directly to those patients. Understanding who we're talking to first is kind of the foundation. And so what Driven Dental Implant Marketing does is we target these patients primarily through Google Ads. And the reason why we choose that channel is because that's where these patients are actively searching. There's a lot of different ways to attract new patients. You could do it through all different types of channels. But where Google Ads is different is it's a response-driven channel versus an interruption-driven type of channel like Facebook or radio or direct mail. On those channels, the patients, especially Facebook, for example, they're not necessarily going on that channel to look for implant treatment. We can really target well in some of these broadcast interruptive type channels, but the piece that's missing is urgency. It's motivation. We can catch people's attention with these other channels and bring them, get them interested. But what's missing is because that urgency may not be there. They weren't actually looking for this right now. They might not be ready yet to book their appointment. So what we end up doing is just collecting a bunch of names and phone numbers of people who may not be as responsive as we'd like. AdWords is different. Google Ads is different. The patients actually sat down with their computer on their phone, and they decided that now is the time to try to solve this problem of replacing missing teeth. And that's when we put your message of why your practice is the best provider for implants right in front of those patients. And they're more likely to respond, and they're actually more likely to come in and hopefully come in with the right expectation to say yes to treatment. So that's where our digital marketing campaigns are different in creating leads. And those leads are they're conversation opportunities. The patients have a problem, they're looking to solve it right now. And hopefully, if you have the right type of conversation, you can motivate them to take the next step and actually walk through your practice doors.
So for somebody who does not, do this type of marketing, I think it might be hard for them to understand exactly what the lead is. Mm-hmm. The lead is somebody who has an interest in a dental implant or whatever, and then has provided their name, phone number, and email address, something like that. And then you get that information. So that's essentially what the lead is.
Correct. And let me just get a little bit more specific in how we do that. So we use Google Ads. Patients looking for, best implant dentist in my city, or how much do all-on-fours cost, or any type of implant-related search query. Boom, your ad pops up, and it speaks directly to what the patient is looking for. They click the ad, and we actually send them to a landing page, it's different than your regular website. It's actually a website, a separate website that's designed specifically just to showcase your practice's ability to deliver implant treatment. And it tells a story about why you're great at that. We use your case studies, your testimonials, your before and afters, and tell stories about your technology, or maybe it's your education experience, all the reasons why a patient would choose you. And on that page, the patient can reach out to your practice in 4 different ways. They can call you, they can fill out a form and request an appointment or ask a question. They can chat. There's a live chat there. And there's also a quiz, which is kind of designed for the patients who maybe are still on the fence. It just asks them some very specific questions about their personal situation. And the natural momentum at the end of that short questionnaire is to reach out to your practice and book an appointment. So in the end, what you get, a lead, is someone who's looking specifically for implant treatment. They've shared their contact information, and they've expressed a desire for your practice to reach out to them and have a conversation about what they should do next to solve their dental problem.
And so now this next step in the process is, I think, what maybe I thought was very different about you guys than when I had initially anticipated what this would be like. So describe the process that you guys recommend after you get the lead. What does the rest of the process look like?
So then once we get the lead, we email that to the practice. And so it pops up, they've got a notification there. Hey, someone's looking to talk to you about coming in to talk about dental implant treatment. And it's up to the practice then to follow up with that lead and get them in. And so what we do is we coach our teams to respond in a certain way. And basically what we're looking to do is just connect with the patient as quickly as possible and establish that personal connection and start to build value for how the practice can help them. And so I think that's where we excel, and that's where a lot of other marketing companies that create these leads for patients, that's where they stop. They send you a list, of the names and phone numbers, and good luck, But in order to get these patients in, you got to have a very specific conversation. Again, these patients may not necessarily have the highest dental IQ. They might not be very familiar with how the process is. This is something that's all very new to them. What they're looking for most is a relationship with someone that can guide them through the process. They're looking for an advocate. And if you can communicate that over the phone, you're going to stand out head and shoulders above all of the other options that they have in the marketplace. So we coach our teams to have this conversation where we're finding out, well, what's going on with the patient, what's motivating them to look for this right now, and to set the right expectations for when they come in so that they have the right mindset to hopefully say yes to treatment as long as we can make it affordable for them.
And so can you describe, and we might be going on a tangent here, but can you describe what affordable to the patient, like what is the goal with implants in terms of pricing or financial options and everything?
Yeah, good point. I think this is probably an overlooked area for dental practices that are looking to attract high value cases is affordability. And if you think about this, it's clearly the biggest barrier to patients saying yes to treatment is cost. And that's actually their biggest concern. I mean, if we look at all of the search queries of what patients are searching online, obviously more than 80% of them are cost related. How much do dental implants cost? Dental implants prices in my area, cheap dental implants, affordable dental implants, inexpensive dental implants. They're trying to find out, how can I fit this treatment into my current lifestyle? And that's a challenge for a lot of people, because the truth is most patients don't have thousands or tens of thousands of dollars just laying around to invest in dental treatment. A lot of them don't even really understand that's how much it costs to get the smile that they want. So we've got to start there and first educate them and understand it. But if we want patients to move forward with treatment, it's critical that we have financial options that we can help them fit this into their budget. And here's my belief. I believe it's the practice's responsibility to work with the patient to make it affordable. We can't expect them to just come in and have it all figured out. Once they figure out how much this treatment costs, we got to work together to get creative, to use all of their insurance, whatever we can get from insurance, to look at our third-party financial options and make sure that we can get our patients approved, and maybe in some cases even consider in-house financing, whatever it takes to be able to make treatment affordable so that they can fit into their lifestyle and actually say yes. Because the truth is, no matter how bad they want this, if they can't fit it into their financial lifestyle, they can't say yes. And so we've got to have those financial options available in order to be successful with doing more implant cases.
Okay, so now I think I took a step forward. I want to take a step back for a second in the kind of the cycle of the process. And what I hope to show everybody is how every step of the process will eventually lead to a higher case acceptance. So, for example, the channel in which we acquire the lead is likely to get us maybe a patient who's more in pain, or whatever it is that they're trying to solve the problem is more evident, made them go search for it. So that's what I'm hoping to show people, and that's kind of why we're going through the whole process. So I want to talk about the booking of the consultation. So what are your guys' best practices for, when you're on the phones trying to get the consultation booked, and, what are the things that you recommend practices do in those to get people in, and then what type of stuff do you recommend that they do during the consultation appointment?
Sure. So to get the appointment booked, I think what we need to do first is just realize that, again, this is a pretty complex purchase decision. Patients are skeptical, they're nervous, and so we need to slow down that very first phone call and focus on creating a personal connection. Patients need to trust us in order to say yes to the next step, which is actually going through the effort to show up to the consult. And it's important to realize that even if we're offering a free consultation, there's still an investment on the patient's part. They still have to invest their time and their effort and their energy. In some cases, they got to take off work or drive across town or find a babysitter or maybe all of those things just to show up to get the information to decide if this is right for them. And so we can't just assume that just because we offer them a time on the schedule that they're just going to show up and be happy to hear everything that we've got to say. We've got to give them a reason to show up. We've got to make it clear to them that this is going to be a worthwhile investment of their time and energy and attention, that when they show up to that consult, they're going to get something out of it and be one step closer to getting the smile that they want. We've got to focus on communicating that clearly on the phone. And so in order to do that, it's about asking more questions and actually listening more than telling. We've got to find out what's going on with the patient, what's motivating them now. Where are they in this decision process? Have they seen other dentists? Do they have other treatment plans that they're trying to get a second opinion on? How serious are they, and how soon do they want to get their smile? Like, find out where they are in the process and have an understanding of that, all before we offer them an appointment on the schedule. Right? We've got to know that, so that we can, once we find those things out about the patient, then we can talk specifically about how our practice can help meet those needs. If they're looking for a second opinion, we can talk about how we're great at that and how we have more creative clinical options, or maybe we have more creative financial options that can make it more affordable for them. If they're concerned about the relationship with the dentist and maybe his ability to deliver quality treatment because they had a bad experience somewhere else, we could talk about the dentist's education and how many implant cases he's done and how much success he's had and how patients rave about their new smile. If he's concerned about maybe convenience and time and how long it's going to take to finish treatment, we could talk about our technology and how that actually shortens the time to delivery of that final smile compared to other practices. And so whatever it is that the patient is motivating them or their decision criteria, we've got to ask first and then talk about what that thing is, whatever it is specifically that they're looking for, to get them excited to show up. And I would also say this, like, you want to paint a picture of what's going to happen at the consultation so that they can see that there's going to be value there. They're going to get a chance to sit down and talk with a dentist and really get their questions answered. They're going to have a chance to meet a friendly, caring team that's going to guide them through the process. They're going to really have an understanding of what the whole clinical process is going to be so that they can confidently make the right decision for them. And most importantly, they're going to actually have a chance to sit down with a financial coordinator who's going to help them figure out how to pay for it. All those things are valuable, but you've got to communicate it clearly over the phone so the patient's excited to show up. That's the first step to case acceptance, is having them walk through the door with the right expectation. Okay, so that's the phone. So now they're walking through the door, and let's talk about what happens in the practice. I would if you're focusing on doing high value treatment, I would definitely take a look at what is your patient experience like, and consider this. You're going to ask a person to invest tens of thousands of dollars in your practice and in you. Are you delivering a patient experience that warrants that? So go through it from start to finish and just make sure that when they walk through the door, they're greeted, that your office looks good, that you've got everything organized, that it's everything that you would expect for someone who's about to invest, what we're asking them to invest. And then when you talk about the actual patient interactions, we want to continue along this theme of continuing to ask questions and find out what's going on with the patient. One of our partners and our supporters is Dr. Paul Homily, who is an expert and has been for decades on case presentation. And he coaches us on, and we share this with our clients, to do two very specific things, ask two very specific questions with the patient. One is, when you ask them, what their chief complaint is, or what is the problem that you're trying to solve. Ask them, how is that impacting their life right now? How is that holding them back from doing the things that they want to do or being the person that they want to be? And really get a good understanding of what's motivating them to move forward or look into this treatment right now. And then the second question on the other side of that is, how is having the smile that they desire, how is getting their teeth back or being able to eat again or whatever it is, how is that going to impact their life? And those two things are critical in creating the motivation for them to move forward with this, pretty extensive investment. They're not investing in dental implants. They're not investing in all-on-4. They're not investing, in the treatment. What they're investing in is confidence and dignity and enjoyment of their food and the chance to be a better version of themselves. That's what they will move mountains to pay for. And so when you're presenting your case, talk about how that investment is in those things, not the actual treatment, but what is the impact of the treatment going to be in their life?
That's great. Wow. I really like that.
I am so proud that we still have Q Optics as a sponsor for the Shared Practices podcast. It's been almost 2 years and I'm still using my 4.5x Prism loupes. They're custom through the lens, they're beautiful, people like them, I get compliments on them, but more than anything, I love the magnification. Some people are hesitant to jump up from 2.5 to 3.5, maybe to 4 or even 4.5. I have never met someone who said, you know what, I really wish I could see less when I'm doing dentistry. I really just if there's decay still there, I don't want to know. I just want to close this tooth up. You should want to see as much as possible. It's going to make your preps better. It's going to make your life better. You're going to see more. You're going to catch more. The only person I can give a pass to, we had someone buy some loupes and share them on our Facebook page. And I was like, oh no, why didn't you get the Prisms? Why didn't you get the 3.5, 4.5? He's like, well, I'm a pediatric dentist. I was like, fine, okay, you get a pass. You can buy normal Q Optics loupes. Everyone else, you should be buying 3.5 plus. You're not gonna regret it. So if you're finally ready to upgrade, email sales@qoptics.com and use the promo code SP19, as in Shared Practices SP19, for a discount off your loupes and light combo.
In terms of, so I think what we talked about before was that the biggest objection is cost.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming that you probably might have a conversation about costs on the phone, and then you're probably going to have a conversation about costs in the consult. So what are your, how do you as the dentist or you as the person on the phone handle those conversations?
Yes, for sure. And they're handled in very different ways, right? And so one of the biggest challenges with attracting patients who are looking for this high value treatment is unfortunately, there is a certain segment of the population that really desires this and really needs it, but the cost is prohibitive. It's something that it is something that is going to keep them from being able to move forward with the treatment. And and our goal is to be able to get patients in the practice that can actually say yes. And so what we want to do is set the right expectations about cost, but do that in a way that's not going to weed out the people that are able to do it by scaring them away. So at this point, they're just having their first conversation. Maybe they're still just kind of researching and finding out, are dental implants right for them? How much does it cost? Can I actually do this? And so we don't just want to start dropping, $1,000 price tags or $10,000 or it costs $25,000 to get the smile that you want. If you do that, what you're going to hear is silence on the phone for a second, and the patient's going to say, oh, okay, I'll call you back. And that's going to begin the conversation. What you need to do instead is help patients understand that, clearly, everyone's treatment is different. This is a surgery. It's a medical procedure. This is not like buying a product off of the shelf. And patients actually don't understand that at the beginning. They think they can just, the prices are all the same. It's just a matter of finding the cheapest one. That's not how it goes. Got to help patients really get that, hey, this is a customized medical procedure for you, that we've got to figure out what is your treatment plan and determine the price. That happens when you show up to the consult. So first, there's that education. But secondly, patients get frustrated by that. And for those of you who have had experience on the phone, you probably have had those conversations where patients still press you. Can you at least give me a range? Can you give me an idea? And the reason for that is they've got to know they like I said, it costs money, or it costs, it's an investment of their energy and time to show up to that consult. They got to know that if they go through all that, that they're going to be able to move forward with the process. They just need to know, can I afford this? Should I even be exploring this? So we've got to give them a range and help them understand that, yes, no matter what your treatment is, we can help you. And so the way that you talk about that on the phone is you just emphasize the fact that you have creative financial options, and that most patients typically end up financing treatment, and we can help you find a way to fit it in your budget. And then if you have to quote a number, you do it in terms of monthly payment, because people can wrap their heads around that. They can decide, okay, if they've got a few $100s extra to be able to get the smile that they're looking for. And that makes it really easy for them to move forward. So on the phone, it's about just really helping patients understand that the true cost is going to be determined at the consult, and that's why they need to come in, and that the only time that they can get that information accurately is to have a doctor diagnose it and put together a treatment plan. But they're still going to press you for price. If you had a quote, do it in terms of monthly payment, and emphasize the fact you have creative financial options. That's how we talk about price on the phone. And we go way deeper into that as we work with our clients with Driven Dental Implant Marketing. That's just kind of the high level view. And once we get into the practice, before you present price, obviously you've got to focus on all the things that I just mentioned, which is really understanding what's motivating the patient. What are they really investing in? And if you can get that clear, it makes those numbers a little easier to swallow, because the value, again, isn't on the procedure. The value is on the transformation that you're delivering. So if you get that right first, and the financial part's going to be a lot easier. But when it comes to presenting finances, again, it's about having as many financial options available. If you're only working with care credit, you probably want to begin to explore some other options, because not every patient can qualify for care credit. And at Driven Dental Implant Marketing, we do have some other financial options that we recommend that's got lower credit requirements. They have higher loan amounts, longer terms to make the payments more affordable. We recommend that. I definitely would recommend considering in-house financial options and partnering with companies that can help you put an official process in place that can help you manage those in-house, financial things a lot easier. We've got resources for that. So the point is, you want to really structure your financial options so that these high-value treatments can be made affordable. Typically, if you do this right, you can get patients approved. If they've got average credit and they can put a little bit down, anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500, you can usually get high-value treatments financed and get it down to about $300 to $500, somewhere around there per month, over 36-month or 60-month period, and that's affordable for a lot of patients. This is a life-changing treatment, but if they've got that, they can move forward.
I love that. And in this process, where do you think most people, where are the biggest hangups that most practices face on getting and converting a lot of this higher end treatment?
I would say there's a couple things. One is just the mindset and understanding who these patients are. I think this is not a lot of practices who haven't really focused on this high value treatment before, and they're used to just getting patients come in for emergencies and regular dentistry because they found you through their insurance directory, or maybe they got a really strong referral, system and a great brand, and patients find them. In that situation, booking appointments is almost like order taking, right? You don't have to do much work because there's already kind of the needs there. It's not much risk to the patient. They're ready to go now. We pretty much can just get them on the schedule, and they're ready to go. This is different. These patients are searching, and also this has been, for a lot of patients, a chronic condition. They've been living with the status quo of having no teeth, of looking at a smile that they don't love, of struggling with, painful dentures or, dentistry that's ineffective for a long time. They're used to the status quo. And so we've got to motivate them to say, enough, and I'm going to make a change. That's a different conversation. We've got to remember that these patients are coming from a different perspective. And so we've got to change our habits in how we communicate with patients. That's number one, just getting the entire team on board with that really understanding how implant patients are different. Number two is, I would say, making sure that we've got financial options in place and understanding how critical that is to the process. We can do a great job at getting patients in. We can do an amazing job at case presentation. But if we don't have affordable options, patients can't say yes, even if they want to. So you have to look at your financial options and make sure they're set up so that patients with average credit and their average job and average income can actually afford this. And in some cases, our current third-party financial options aren't enough. And the way that we've set up our in-house payment programs, or hey, you got to put half down today and then the rest over the next 3 or 6 months, that's not feasible for a lot of patients. We've got to find a better way. And so you got to look at your financial options and put yourself on the same team as the patient and work with them to problem solve and figure this out. So that's 2. And then 3 is, this is work. We got to work for these big cases. That means we've got to work to create the right expectation for the patients. We've got to work to follow up with these leads and make sure that, this is they have a longer decision timeline. So it might require a few more touches as we move them along in the process. That's work. And I know that we're all busy in the dental practice. We've got a ton of other tasks and things to do. But if we want to close these big cases, we've got to commit to doing the work. And that's probably the third thing that some practices have a challenge wrapping their head around. So implant patients are different. Got to get your financial options in place and be willing to commit to do the work to make it happen. And if you do those 3 things, what you will find when you work with a company like Driven Dental Implant Marketing that can create the opportunity and support you in closing is you're going to consistently see the big cases, $20,000, $30,000, and then everything in between. Implant placement can start as low as $5,000 for just a single tooth, all the way up to the full arch, procedure. So these are patients that are walking through the door with substantial treatment plans. And what they're looking for is not a transaction. They're looking for a relationship. And if our goal remains the same as every other patient, which is to get them in our practice and service them, whether they just start with their first cleaning, that's fine. Eventually, as they build trust with us, they may go ahead and start and do these other treatments. So every patient that walks through the door is extremely valuable. And we just got to find a way to get them started with something and become part of our dental family.
I think you made a great point on I think I want to maybe touch on the range of patients, the range of dental needs in that are searching for implants. There's a lot of edentulous, people in dentures. And I think that's like the biggest, most common pain point is probably, those, loose denture, can't taste my food, whatever it is. But what are some of the, what are the categories of, implant patients that you guys see coming through?
Good. So for us, there's 4 buckets of patients who are missing teeth and looking for a solution. So you start with your single implant patients. And for us, what we're finding is, these patients are a little bit younger. Maybe they're missing a tooth because of trauma or an accident. Maybe they should have gotten that root canal and a crown a little while back, but they decided instead I didn't have the money, so they just extracted the tooth. And now they're seeing the beginning of the consequences of that as their teeth are shifting and stuff. Or maybe they just don't like their smile now with the new space that they've gotten. And they have the money now to change it. So typically they're younger. I would say young is 25 and kind of into the later 30s. Also, sometimes there's, maybe they've got congenital defects and stuff like that. And now is finally they've got the resources to fix this stuff. Those are your single implant patients. And then you've got your implant bridge patients or multiple teeth replacements. And typically these patients are looking to repair or replace existing failing dentistry. And the cool thing about these patients is they already value dentistry because they've invested in it in the past. And now they're just looking for an experience that, that they can be comfortable with. And most importantly, they're looking for dentistry that's going to last. And so they're looking for quality. These patients are typically a little easier to convert because, again, they already value and believe in dentistry. They're just looking for the right dental practice to help them get the result that they deserve. The third bucket is the denture relief patients. And they are struggling with dentures and all the pain and inconvenience and embarrassment and all the things that come along with that. And they want something different. And they realize that dental implants could be a potential solution for them. So they're looking for, either the stabilized dentures or the overdentures or even a full arch solution. And then the final bucket is your full arch cases. These are your hopeless cases, maybe whether it's through drugs or neglect or disease or a combination of all those things. They're just looking to start over and get the smile that they're looking for. So they're motivated by health reasons, for confidence reasons, for lifestyle reasons. These are the big transformations, and the patients are really motivated to finally take action there. So those are 4 buckets. That's who we see walk through the door. And like I said, the value from those can range as low as, the single tooth replacement, which is about $5,000 when you talk about, the implant placement, the abutment, and the crown, somewhere between $3,500 and $5,000 for one tooth, all the way up to 25 or 30 grand an arch for the full arch cases.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary, and I've found that same, in the short time that we've been doing it, found the same type of, categorizations of patients, and I think it also helps to know the pain points of each of those individuals as well.
Yeah, I think it's important actually to just think about it not in terms of demographics, but in terms of problem solution, right? So each of these four buckets of patients have a specific problem, and their problems have symptoms in their life. They're motivated by those things. Those aren't necessarily constrained by age. And so when you're putting together your marketing, don't think about it, as we just need to go after the older patients, or we need to go, they need to be in this certain area or whatever it is. Don't think about it in terms of demographics. Think about it in terms of problem, solution, and position your practice as having the right solution for their particular problem.
Perfect. And in terms of anything else in our conversation, Charles, I think we've hit kind of the whole process, and I think it should be evident to our listeners of how that does impact case acceptance every step of the process. Is there anything that you felt we needed to add to this conversation?
Well, we had talked about when you're running a campaign, if you're going to invest in getting patients to reach out to your practice and have a conversation about taking the next step, if you're paying for that, you want to make sure that your entire team is on board and responding to those inquiries as quickly as possible. I would say that across the board, this is probably one of the biggest challenges for a busy dental practice is, you've literally got a very small window where when the patients are reaching out in response to these campaigns, where they're on their phone or in their computer for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, like right then, that's when they're thinking about this. That's when it's top of mind. Speed to the lead is what is going to make you successful. And it's super important that you set up your practice so, and that whoever is managing this campaign, your admin person, that they have the expectation to respond as quickly as possible to these leads and have a conversation. One of the frustrations that we hear a lot from practices who are running campaigns from whatever channel is that, the patients don't call us back or they're not responsive. It's because we missed the opportunity. Everyone's busy. They've all got so many other things going on in their life. If we wait, a couple hours or the next day or maybe even a couple of days before we respond to those leads, the chances of us actually having a conversation go way down. And so speed to the lead is critical. If you're running any marketing, make sure that you've got someone kind of in charge of responding to these leads and doing it as quickly as possible. That's probably one of the most critical things to be successful with a marketing campaign designed to attract and convert patients.
Have you found what kind of things can the dentist do to motivate a team member to kind of take on that role? And, what has been successful in the practices you work with to get a dentist to have a team member adopt responsibility and really buy into that?
Sure. I'll give you 3 quick points. One is have a goal. You want to actually set a number of, hey, let's do 5 consults this week. Let's do 6 consults this week. Let's make that a goal and make it public for the whole team and celebrate when you hit that goal. And so that they're incentivized by doing that. Just basically having a number so that it's not just, let's just get some new patients, but have a very specific, here's what success looks like, makes it a lot easier for team members to stay motivated and make it realistic, especially at the beginning, they're usually trying to learn new phone skills and incorporate new habits. So don't give them an unrealistic goal. Start small. Let's do 5 or 6 consults this week or 3 consults this week, even as low as that, and just start there and build on that. 2, track your results. Make sure you know how many leads are coming in and what your conversion rates are, and see what your show rate is too, because that's an indication of how well you're doing on the phone. You want to be tracking things at every step of the process, and that's definitely something that Driven Dental Implant Marketing does well. Is we're very data focused and data driven, so we actually create a spreadsheet for our clients, and every single lead that comes in goes on that spreadsheet automatically, and we coach our teams to track how many of the leads did they contact, who got booked, who showed up, and then how much treatment did we present, and ultimately who said yes, so that we know what happened with every single lead. This is not only going to help you get a very clear picture of what your return on investment is on the campaign, but I think probably more importantly, it's going to show you how well are you doing at each step? And you're going to be able to identify what areas of the process you need to put your attention to improve. So tracking is important. And then three, I kind of touched on this before, is celebrate. I think you want to celebrate your successes when you get them. Call out team members for doing a great job when they book. When you actually get treatment closed, you make a big deal about it. Celebrate as a team. Hey, this is working. And just make sure that when you get success, it's acknowledged and rewarded, so that patient or that your team can stay motivated. And basically by doing this, by focusing on this whole thing make it a priority in your practice for at least 90 days. If you're running a campaign specifically to attract new patients, say, hey, look, this is going to be our primary focus for the next couple months as a team. And everybody in the team needs to be on board with our goal is to get patients who are looking for these high value implant treatments. We're going to do our best to create a great patient experience and get as many of them to say yes to treatment as possible. That's our goal as a team. And make sure that all hands are on deck. And if you focus on it as a team for a specific period of time, the first 90 days, while everybody's learning these new habits, you're going to definitely be much more successful versus just launching the campaign in the background and the leads come up, nobody knows what's going on. You're going to get a much different results if you do not involve your team. And so that's why we do our coaching and all that kind of stuff the way that we do at Driven Dental Implant Marketing.
Yeah, I love that. I totally agree. And I'm wondering, so call conversion, show up rate, case acceptance. What are some numbers that you guys like to see from a practice that's performing well?
So in terms of conversion rates, so what we're looking at, I would say, like on average, your biggest focus is contact rate. That's probably, you want to make sure that you're talking to as many leads as possible. And so you're not going to talk to all of them. Some leads actually will be responsive because, all these patients are at various stages in their journey towards, saying yes to implant treatment. And so some of them can be in the very beginning stages and they may not be as responsive. That's a fact. So I would say that probably about 80% contact rate is that's a great number. You want to try to get to that. Once you have a conversation with the patients, I would say maybe about 60% book rate is reasonable. And that's because not every patient is ready right now. Not every patient is going to be qualified right now to move forward with this. So you're not going to book every single person that you talk to. Once you book the appointment, not everybody's going to show up. People are going to reschedule, they're going to cancel, they're going to change their mind. These things happen. And so you kind of want to make sure that we have a realistic expectation about show rate. I would say if you're doing things right, 60 to 70% show rate is probably realistic. And if it's lower than that, it's an indication that there may be a problem on the phone in creating that sense of urgency and really building value and getting patients excited to come in. And there's some other strategies that we teach to help solve this. But if you're having a problem with show rate, it's typically a phone issue. So once they show up, what's case presentation? This is where most teams excel because this is your area. This is where you're good at it. As long as you've got financial options in place, I think you can close, a good portion of these patients, anywhere from, 40 to 50% can say yes to treatment. And so that's kind of the goal. But actually, the truth is, you don't have to be that good. You could be at 20% or 10%. If that one case is $25,000 or $32,000, you can pay for the entire campaign for months with one patient saying yes to a big case. And that's the exciting part about going after, patients who are looking for teeth replacement treatment, these dental implant cases, is there's such high value. The return on investment is definitely there, and you don't have to close a ton of patients to get your return back.
I love that. I think that's a great place for us to kind of wrap things up. I always like when our audience has specific information to take from them, and I think you've really brought a lot of specifics here. And I really appreciate your time, Charles. Do you have anything that you wanted to add before we go?
Yeah, well, I hope this has been valuable for your listeners. If anybody is interested and want to learn more or go deeper, if you have any questions, definitely reach out to me. Go to drivendentalmarketing.com. You can schedule a free strategy session with myself or with my enrollment coach, Charlotte. We can have a conversation with you about your specific marketplace and your specific practice and just see if this, something like this, creating a campaign to attract these high value implant patients is right for your practice. And, no obligation, 15 minutes, we can figure out what's right. go to drivendentalmarketing.com, just fill out the form, and you can get on the schedule. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend you talk to Charles. I think that if I was listening to this, I would get from it that it's so much more than what keywords you target, or it's so much more about the entire, it's an entire campaign and effort from your team. And I think with that mindset, great things can happen for you in your practice.
Yes, I would agree. And the final point here, I think, is it's a team effort, and your marketing team is part of your team. You want to choose a partner that's going to help you with this, that sees themselves as an extension of your practice. And I think that's one of the things that Driven Dental Implant Marketing really believes, is that we're coming on board as part of your team. Our job in this process is to create the opportunity to generate the leads. And it's your team's job in this process to convert on that opportunity. And we've got to work together to maximize the results. And so that's what we love doing this. If you're looking for a partner like that, definitely reach out. I would love to talk to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Charles. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, that was jam-packed. I think people are going to have to go back and re-listen, especially if they are currently marketing to implant patients. So what are your takeaways? Obviously, just hire them. That's the easiest takeaway because that's what you've done.
Yeah, but I think, in working with them, I think the biggest takeaway is speed to the lead, is getting to that lead who comes to you as fast as possible. It's a total office effort. It's not just a marketing company you hire and you forget about. You got to respond to these patients quickly. You got to relate to them. You got to bring them in. You got to show them the transformation, and then you got to, give them financial options that they can afford. So I think it's just kind of the whole process.
No, totally. And to realize that, I like how he set little goals all along the way of how fast we get back to people, how many of those people we're contacting, how many of those we're scheduling, and helping motivate your team to realize that these are important leads, and it's not going to be a perfect, every person that you get through the company isn't going to instantly turn into some large treatment. But if 2 or 3 of them do, it pays for all of the whole portion of it.
Yeah, I wrote his percentages down. It was you call 80% of them, and then you schedule 60% or whatever, and then, 60% show up, and then you convert 40 to 50%. And what it worked out to is about 10 to 20% of your patients, of your leads, should schedule some sort of type of treatment. And so at that dollar amount, that's pretty incredible return on your investment. So, that getting to that point is difficult. And I think he didn't shy away from that. I think he wanted to be upfront and realistic about the kind of toll it takes on your practice.
Well, the other thing I really liked was this is just one really specific tiny thing, but he mentioned how they didn't find that Facebook ads and other kind of interruption type social media ads worked well for this demographic, because they're looking for patients who are willing to take action now. And those are the patients who are actively Googling things around implant treatment. And so therefore they use Google AdWords. I thought that was a great little insight. That's more of a marketing side of things, but it just shows how it all fits together. If you're trying to get this type of patient, you need to market in a certain way and in a certain area. And that's going to give you, maybe if you get a bunch of tire kickers, maybe it's not because your case acceptance sucks. Maybe it's because you have been attracting patients who aren't ready to commit for treatment, and they're more just kind of interested and looking around.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, in that how one marketing channel you use has an impact on your case acceptance. And I think that's kind of the goal of this whole season, is to show you how so much is involved and ties into it.
Okay, awesome. Well, how can people reach out to Charles Biami if they're interested in his information?
I think he kind of announced his URL, and we'll put it in the show notes. And then go out to their Driven Dental Implant Marketing, and then you can reach out to them through their website.
Awesome. Well, sweet. Well, thanks for doing this interview, George. Fantastic episode. We'll talk with you guys next week on the Shared Practices podcast.